My name is Jane Borowski, host of Invisible Tears. This podcast will be about my story in my words, talking about my own personal experiences in self-healing. I do not claim to be a therapist, counselor, or licensed psychologist.
Hello, my name is Amanda Bedard, and I'm the co-host, producer, and editor of Invisible Tears. I'm a Reiki master, certified professional life coach, spiritual coach, wellness coach, and a counseling practitioner. Some of the content you will hear in this podcast may be disturbing to some. Viewer discretion is advised, but it is our hope by putting this information out there that we may help others to heal. We will always be a platform for truth and healing. This is Invisible Tears. On this episode of Invisible Tears, Jane is going to share a detailed account of her life before, during, and immediately following her attack that happened August 6th, 1988 in Swanzey, New Hampshire. You may think you've heard her story, but you've never heard her tell her story in her own words.
So we're going to talk about my attack today.
We are.
I think I want to start when I originally came to New Hampshire. I had grown up in Massachusetts. My parents divorced when I was very, very young, 6, 7 years old. And my dad was born and raised in Hinsdale, New Hampshire. So I only saw him a couple of times a year. And we would come up in the summers for like 2-3 weeks at a time. And we made a lot of friends in Hinsdale, a small town. So over the years, we gained some friendships and always stayed in contact with them. And when I was 19, I decided to come up and visit with some friends, Kim and her family. And also gave me a chance to visit with my dad some. So when I came up, my friend Kim took me to a party, and I met Dennis there. We were introduced. He showed a great deal of interest, but I had just gotten out of a long relationship, to almost 3-year relationship, so I wasn't ready for a relationship at all. But he definitely was, and he chased me for a couple of weeks. It was definitely a couple of weeks, and I gave in to temptation, and so we started dating. And I don't know, 5-6 months later, I ended up moving in with him and his parents. So my visit turned into permanent stay.
You just didn't leave.
No, I never left. Mm-hmm. And I never dreamed in a million years that was going to be my true love. So I was with him for a couple of years, and I found out that I was pregnant. Now I'm 22, very naive, and thought I had the stomach virus for like 3 months.
Yep.
Nauseous, sick, all that. So I went to the doctor, and they told me I was pregnant, and it was very unexpected. And I really don't know why it was unexpected, because I mean, I was not on birth control. I'll be totally honest with that. Mm-hmm. And Dennis was just barely 20. So he was young. And so we were processing me being pregnant. And probably right around the end of July. Now you gotta take into consideration, I'm about 6 months pregnant. The summer of '88 was brutal weather-wise. It was hot and humid, and it was just horrible. That summer was so hot. I remember that
Perfect summer to be pregnant.
Oh, yeah. Huh?
Oh.
And, I, of course, my first pregnancy, hormones were roaring.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't understanding everything that was going on with my body. I, for some reason, was sick my whole entire pregnancy with Jessica.
You know what? Actually, with mine, there were times. Obviously, it was worse in the first trimester, but there were times throughout the entire pregnancy, and I had some complications with mine too, like throughout. So what they say about morning sickness, just your first trimester, that is so not true. And it's not just in the morning either, right? No, it's not just in the morning.
Oh, all day. Either
Yep.
nauseous or vomiting.
Yep.
It was like
Yep.
one or the other. And another thing I was going through was swollen ankles.
Oh, yeah.
And I had hemorrhoids for the first time in my life. So I was like... I was miserable that summer. I was like trying to be so excited. And I was excited about being pregnant after I was done processing. But I wasn't it wasn't easy living with me at all.
But what I absolutely love about this conversation too, though, is that, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, we're both moms. We both love our children to pieces, right? Wouldn't change anything for the world, but neither one of us, I think, had perfect pregnancies. No. And a lot of women will sit there and be like, "Oh, I just loved being pregnant, and it was so blissful," and ba 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 ba. And I just sit there and I'm like, I didn't get that at all.
Yeah,
I had
exactly.
a different problem every week, and my body just did not like being pregnant. And
Yep, same here.
and I feel bad and I feel guilty saying that I was miserable, but I was a miserable pregnant woman.
Oh, I was.
Yeah.
I was so miserable that me and Dennis were fighting so much. I mean, obviously I didn't have the body I had before I was pregnant, so he'd look at a female. I don't care who the female was. He'd look at that female and I would go off. And so we fought a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I made the decision of I think we need to, split up for a while.
And this was in July?
This was the middle of July.
Mid-July.
And it was about 2 weeks before my attack.
Okay.
So we split up. I moved in with some friends of ours. And every year Swanzey has a county fair, the Cheshire County Fair. It's just right outside of Keene. And we've gone the past few years, and I wanted to go to the fair that night. It was August 6th, 1988. And so I really couldn't find anybody to go with me, so I decided to go by myself. Didn't see it. I saw no reason why not.
Right.
So went to the fair. Well, it was later on in the afternoon, like 5-ish, 6-ish, right around there. And walked around quite a bit, ran into a ton of people I knew, talked, had a little bit of conversation. Of course, the belly rubs with the woman.
Of course.
And I ended up running into Dennis's mom.
Yep.
And we ended up hanging out for the rest of the night. We found these quarter coin push machines where you pop a quarter in and it pushes coins off the edge.
Yep.
Now today, I see those machines and they're all $20 bills sitting on top, or $5 bills, or $100 bills sitting on top. Well, back then, they had these plastic tokens, chips, sitting on top. And if you won one, you got a stuffed animal.
Nice.
So me and Dennis's mother, we played on those for hours. And we ended up winning like 15 stuffed animals. I won so many stuffed animals, and they weren't big, they were small. But I won so many, the guy had to give me a bag so I could carry them to my car.
Atta girl.
And every time we won one, it was like, oh, another stuffed animal for Jessica, another stuffed animal for Jessica.
Yeah.
So, but we had a really, really good time, and everything was starting to close up. It was getting late. I believe the Midway was closing up. The rides had stopped. So we decided it was time to go and said my goodbyes to her. And Dennis's father was roaming the fair like he always did. And we met up with him, and I said my goodbyes to him. So I walked to my car, got in my car, threw my bag of stuffed animals in the back seat. And now I have to remind you again, it was so hot and muggy that day and night. Like, so hot and muggy. So...
What time was that, Jane?
That was pretty late. I'm going to say 11.
11.
Maybe 11:30.
I was going to say, because were there fireworks that night at
I
the
don't
fair?
believe
Or
so.
No. Okay.
No, I don't believe so. So I got in my car and I started heading home. And I was on Route 10. And I remembered, I wanted a soda. Matter of fact, I'm going to back that up a little bit because I wanted to get something to drink before we left, but it was so late and everything was closed up.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up not getting a drink there. So headed home, I knew that there was a soda machine at Gamarlo's on Route 10 in Swanzey. And I was driving by there anyways to go home. And
so what route did you take? This was another question that actually popped into my mind last night. So as you're coming out of the fairgrounds,
yeah,
you essentially headed back towards Keene.
No, we always took the back way
I was
out
just
of the fairgrounds.
Okay, all right, the back
Yeah.
way.
Back way would come down onto by the airport.
By the airport, got it. Okay,
Yeah. And then head that way.
Okay, now I know what route you took. Awesome.
And then that goes right on to Route 10.
And just real quick, actually, back at the fair, didn't you? I know that you talked about hanging out with Dennis's mother and then meeting up with Dennis's father and just saying bye. Did you see Dennis?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not. But afterwards, I did find out that he was there.
Gotcha.
But I never ran into him.
But you never ran into him.
Never
Got
saw
it.
him.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Sorry.
that's okay. So I'm headed home, and I pull into Gamarlo's, and I park right in front of the soda machine. Now, this is a small town, virtually no major crime.
Yeah, I mean, where Gamarlo's is, in that little stretch in Swansea, essentially you blink and you're past anything that's there.
Exactly.
So.
And it's a main road.
Yep.
It's not like it's on a back road or anything. It's a main road. So I stopped and parked right in front of the soda machine. Of course, we were playing that quarter push machine, so I had to dig for change.
Mm-hmm.
Because back then you couldn't put $1 bill into a soda machine.
Right.
I had to dig for change.
You had to have coin. Yep.
So I dug up some change, went to the soda machine, put the change in, went to push the button for my soda, and it never gave me my soda. And I was a little bit upset about that. So I went back to my car, rustled up some more change, went back to the soda machine, put my change in, hit the soda button, and I actually got 2 sodas that time. So for whatever reason, I don't know why I didn't get the first soda, but I ended up getting 2 sodas that second time.
Interesting. At least you got paid back.
I did.
Right.
So I went back to my car and sat there for only a couple of seconds and took a sip of my soda. And then I noticed, I really didn't notice. It's not like it was like something that was really brought to my attention. But a vehicle had pulled in and parked on my driver's side or passenger side of my car.
Yep.
I really didn't pay much attention. There's a soda machine. There's a payphone right there. Didn't pay any attention to it whatsoever.
Right. Didn't seem odd. And while you were focused on trying to get the sodas, you didn't feel like you were followed there by any means. That there was nothing that would have alerted you to anything being out of the ordinary.
Nothing.
Right? Okay.
No, I didn't feel like anybody was watching me. I didn't feel followed. I didn't.
Yep.
A safety concern to me never entered my mind at that time because I had no reason.
I totally understand it.
I had no reason.
Because of where you were.
Exactly.
I would feel the same way.
So I'm getting ready to leave, and I look in my rearview mirror, and the guy had gotten out of his vehicle, and he's walking behind my vehicle. Thought that was a little odd. Came right up to my car door, and it was fairly quick. I mean, I was kind of confused why he was even walking up to my door. Thought maybe he just was asking me a question or whatever.
Right.
So it was so quick. He put his hand on my car door, opened my car door, and said, like all at the same time, "Is the payphone working?" And then the next thing I know, my door was open, and he's trying to take me out of the car.
Crazy.
And, like, fear set in. Total fear. I screamed for help so loud and so hard, I popped blood vessels in my eyes.
My God.
And once he realized I wasn't going with him, he couldn't pull me out of the car. Somehow he got between me and the steering wheel, trying to grab my arms, and I was just kicking him so hard. Somehow I got my feet up where I was kicking him, and I kicked so hard that I smashed my windshield. I had missed him and kicked the windshield and smashed my whole windshield.
Wow.
And then next thing I know, he takes a knife out. And he says, "Maybe this will persuade you to get out of the car." And it did. And I was so scared at that moment. I was so scared. But yeah, I was confused.
Right.
Because I really didn't know what this guy wanted or what he was going to do.
Right. Because it's like he came over to like ask you a question,
Yeah.
but at the same time just like started attacking you. It was almost like an excuse to sort of confuse you and misdirect you, and then just started attacking you.
His focus really on that moment was me going with him. And I was not going to go with him.
Yep.
I was not. And I think he realized that once he got me out of the car with the knife. And then we closed the door. I'm standing by the driver's side door. And he's like standing over towards the rear of my car, like by the quarter panel. And I said, "What do you want?" So fear turned into total confusion because he was like away from me a little bit.
Right.
So I'm thinking, what does this guy want? So I said, "What do you want?" And he said, "You beat up my girlfriend." So now confusion is really there. I'm like, what is this guy talking about? So I said, "No, I didn't beat up nobody's girlfriend." And then he says, "Isn't this a Massachusetts car?" And I was like, "No." It has New Hampshire plates on it. And he did walk around to the back of the car and looked at the plates. And then it was dead silence. He didn't say anything. So my fear turned into confusion. Then I was pissed.
Yeah.
I was so angry. I was like, what is this guy doing? What does he want?
Right.
So next thing I know, he starts walking to his vehicle. And I said words that I regret for the rest of my life. As I'm watching him walk towards his vehicle, I'm like, I have a smashed windshield.
Right.
I'm like, what the heck?
I mean, he just accosted you in your own car.
Yeah.
I mean, and then proceeded to say, "You beat up my girlfriend, and isn't this a Massachusetts? Like, isn't this a car from Massachusetts?" Like, I would be pissed too after I went through all those stages.
So he started walking towards his car, and I was like, hey, asshole, what about my windshield?
Right.
I don't know why I said that. I don't know if maybe... I think at that moment, with him walking away and not trying to get me to go with him anymore, it was almost like I wasn't threatened by him anymore.
Right.
And I just felt like, what about my windshield? I don't know why. It just, it pissed me off. What happened to my windshield?
Yeah.
It pissed me off. So that at that moment, he came back around to me, and he put the knife up against my neck. Now, I've been judged. Why didn't I jump back in the car? I didn't jump back in the car because with him walking away towards his vehicle, I did not feel threatened.
Right. And especially after he deterred you sort of with you beat up my girlfriend, is this a message? And then you see him walking away. You're thinking, okay, he's realizing that this isn't me.
Yeah.
So
he's
maybe even the thought of him having a knife and originally getting you out of the car, it completely escaped you. And you're like, oh, okay,
Exactly.
You realize you have the wrong person. Now my car is damaged and you've just accosted me. Like,
Yep.
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah. Exactly. So he came back around. He had the knife up against my neck at this point. My back was leaning up against the driver's side door or whatever, on the driver's side. And I saw a vehicle coming down the road, and it was going to go past the store. And I knew the only way I was going to get out of that situation was to run and scream to try and get their attention. So as soon as I saw that vehicle, I was running towards the road.
Mm-hmm.
And I just screamed, help. And they just went by. And the next thing I know, he tackled me down like a football player. I felt the hand on the back of my shoulder, and he just tackled me down on the pavement. And before I knew it, I was on my back, and he proceeded to stab me. And it was almost like an out-of-body experience for me. I couldn't believe this was happening. I was doing everything I could to try to prevent the stabbing to my belly, to Jessica. So I had a lot of defensive wounds on my hands.
Yep.
And he just proceeded to stab. And it was like he was never going to stop. It was like he's never going to stop stabbing, but at the same time, before I knew it was over. I mean, I can hear the stabs. I can hear the flesh as the knife was entering my skin. And the stabbing just continued. It just was, and it was so surreal to me. I wasn't really comprehending exactly what was going on, because I never dreamed in a million years this guy was going to do this.
Right.
And then after he got done stabbing, it was like it stopped. And he stood up. And he walked away. He didn't run away. He walked away. And I was laying there, and I was thinking, I can't believe this just happened to me. And I need to get help.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also, in another sense, thinking, where is he?
Right.
Because I'm laying on the ground on my back, and I didn't see him anymore. And I was like, where is he? So the next thing I know, he was gone. He walked away. So I rolled over to my stomach and got up on my hands and knees. And I hear the vehicle coming towards me. And I said, I think that's him. And by this time, my mind was, my body obviously was going into shock.
Yeah.
So my mind wasn't really registering everything. But when I was on my hands and knees getting up, he had driven very slowly by me on my head side. And I had looked up at him, and he looked right down at me. I'll never forget that. And he drove away. So at this point, I'm thinking, I have got to get all the help I possibly can. I need to get help.
Yeah, absolutely. And so through the attacks, so I know that you've said before, so he ended up stabbing you 27 times.
He stabbed me 27 times.
And I know that you said that you had a lot of defensive wounds. Obviously, you were trying to protect your stomach the entire time. So where were you stabbed? Because that's a lot of times to be stabbed.
I was stabbed in the chest.
Mm-hmm.
My hands, he had stabbed my hand where I had, he had cut my tendon in my thumb. He stabbed me in my knee, which he cut the tendon in my knee. When I ran, he had sliced my jugular.
Oh my goodness.
And the stab wounds were everywhere but Jessica. He had stabbed me where he had lacerated my liver. So I did have a piece of my liver removed. And mostly in the chest area. So when I got up and I got to my car, I don't mean to laugh about this, it's just thinking about things. When I got to my car, I'm trying to open my car door. No, I had the flip up handle. I had an 1985 Firebird.
Oh, very nice.
Yes, it was very nice. So I'm trying to flip up the handle to open the door, and for some reason my hand wouldn't work, and I don't know, I couldn't understand it. But at the same time, I'm just hearing blood just gush out of me.
Oh.
I can hear it gushing every time I moved a certain way. The blood just was gushing out of me. I could hear it. So I finally got my car door open. I got in and I said, okay, I got to get help. So I started driving down the road, like headed towards Winchester way, the direction I was going in the beginning, in the first place when I pulled in. Yep. And I got driving down the road. I'm sure I was speeding. And before I knew it, I was right behind him. I said, oh my God, he's right in front of me. So, I mean, he wasn't even trying to race out of the area or anything. He wasn't trying to...
Just nonchalantly driving away.
Just as normal could be. So when I got behind him, I was like, oh my God, I'm right behind him. He's going to know where I'm going to be stopping. There was a friend of mine that lived 2 miles up the road, and that was going through my mind that I would go to his house, pull into his driveway, because he was right on Route 10. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, for some reason it was going through my mind, well, maybe I won't because he'll know where I am.
Right.
But I did. I pulled into my friend's driveway, and the blood was just coming out of me so bad. I knew it was bad. I don't know, sometimes I kind of think I didn't know that it was as bad as it was.
Right.
But in a certain sense, I knew it was bad. And so I got out of my car. I didn't even shut my car off. I didn't close my car door. I got out of my car. And, of course, it was hot that night. So my friend, he was at the front door. His front door was open, but the screen door was closed. And he must have heard me come in the driveway because he was come to the door. And I got to his stairs, and I said, some asshole just stabbed the shit out of me. I need help. And I collapsed on his stairs. And this part is like in and out. I remember laying on his stairs, and a police officer came, which we knew him, P.D. Farnham. He was a police officer in Winchester. And he came, and he knew who I was right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, Jane, who did this? Who did this to you? Was it Dennis? And I said, no, it wasn't Dennis. I don't know who did this to me.
Right.
And obviously he was trying to get as much information as possible in case something happened to me. He really needed as much info as possible.
Yep. I'm surprised you're conscious.
I know.
I
know.
Yeah, that's just amazing. But
strength.
Yeah, exactly.
Strength.
One thing that throughout explaining the attack that I noticed that you never actually once said was you never actually talked about the pain. It was more the emotions that you were going through and how it was surreal. And also, I've never heard you. Did the thought ever actually cross your mind during or right after the attack that you weren't going to make it?
Absolutely. I think the pain, I had so much, I was so focused on getting help.
Good.
And my body went into shock.
Went into shock, yep.
So I really don't remember the pain.
Yep. And that makes sense. I mean, your body essentially goes into shock and into survival mode.
Exactly.
But I mean, naturally somebody that hears your story, and hears, the facts about it in 27 times, I can't help and jump to, my God, what a horrific event and how painful that probably was.
Yeah.
But I think your focus on just getting help.
Exactly. And did I think I was going to die? I did.
You did.
I did not think I was going to be able to make it to my friend's house. I really didn't. And while I was there, I did tell them a couple of times I'm going to die. And they were like, no, you're not. No, you're not.
Yep.
And I kept wanting to go to sleep. I just kept wanting to close my eyes and go to sleep. And they wouldn't let me. They kept talking to me. Jane, open your eyes. Yep. Jane, stay with me. I can remember that so much. And, when Petey got there, he asked me what kind of vehicle and stuff. Mm-hmm. What was he driving? Actually, I've got to back up a little bit because before Petey got there, when I was laying on the stairs, all of a sudden, we heard a vehicle go by and slam on their brakes, squeal their tires, slam on their brakes. And I said, Bob, that's him. That's him. And he was like, next thing I know, his brother, he comes out on the steps with a gun because they hunt. Mm-hmm. And he must have called his brother because his brother came over with a gun.
Yep.
So the vehicle took off. I know it was him. He had saw me pull in. He had turned around, drove by, and saw my car. And I know it was him. So Petey was there. I described the vehicle as much as I could. And
what was the description of that vehicle?
Well, Bob's brother that lived next door, it was kind of like his vehicle, but it was wood grain. It was at that time I didn't know what it was. It ended up being a Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Oh, okay.
But at that time I didn't know what the vehicle was or the name or anything. Mm-hmm. So I just described it as it's like his vehicle, but wood grain siding. Mm-hmm. So it felt like forever rescue getting there. And, of course, I was in and out of it. And all of a sudden I hear Petey say, I need rescue here now. And he was not nice about it. And come to find out what happened was Keene Rescue was headed to get me. and they realized that they were going to be 2 miles out of their jurisdiction. So they turned around and went back, and they had to call Winchester.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I said after. So it took forever for them to get there, and Winchester came and brought me to the hospital. I do not remember that rescue ride whatsoever. I was completely out of it. I just don't remember it.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember being in the ER. And you know those big overhead lights that shine really bright on you?
Yep.
I can remember that being on me. And several people talking around me. And I can remember them saying, there's another one. Oh, I found another one. Oh, there's another one. And there were stab wounds. They kept saying, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. And that, I was like, I can remember thinking, oh my God, how many are there?
Right.
And then I heard Petey was there at the hospital, and he was like standing over on the side in the ER. And all of a sudden I heard him say, Dennis is here. And I heard the doctor or somebody say, he can't come in right now. And all of a sudden I just was like, I want to see Dennis. I want to see Dennis. I want Dennis in here. And they brought Dennis in, and I looked at him, and he looked at me, and that was his first sight. And I can't imagine what was going through his mind. And in a way, I kind of wish I never called him in.
Yeah.
Because that was a visual he really didn't need. Especially knowing if I didn't survive, that would have been his last visual of me. And I do feel bad about that.
But at the time, you heard that he was there. And I'm sure in your mind, especially as you're hearing the doctor say, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one, and it's going through your mind, how many times did I get stabbed? And you're still thinking, am I going to survive this? You hear that he's there. I would have done the same thing. I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, I just wanted to see him. So when he came in the room, I don't know, for whatever reason, I thought he was going to be, my hero. And I said to him, find the guy. Find the son of a bitch that did this to me. And shortly after that, that was all I remember.
Yeah.
And they brought me down to surgery. I lost a lot of blood. They had to give me 2 pints of blood. They had to stop the bleeding of my jugular. Of course, my liver. They had to remove a piece of my liver. They had to fix my tendon in my knee, my tendon in my hand. And I had 2 collapsed lungs. And they stitched up all my stab wounds. And so the next thing I remember, I was in ICU. I was intubated. I was on a ventilator. I can remember the first time I woke up in there. It was really dark. It was dark. Not really dark. I could see around the room. If I looked in front of me, there was like a big sliding glass door. And over at the right side of me, Dennis was sitting in a recliner. And there was a TV in front of him, and he was sleeping. And then I closed my eyes, and I was in and out of it so many times. And but every time I woke up, Dennis was there. He never left. He was there the whole time. Being 22 years old, that's when you know you're with your true love.
Absolutely.
I don't know why that made me so emotional. I just did. Listen, that made me emotional.
It kind of makes sense, though. I mean, it does. It made me emotional. You know what I mean? It made me emotional listening to it. Because, you know, being so young and going through something so ridiculously traumatic, something so horrific that nobody should ever have to go through. And your memories, especially once, you know what I mean, you come to, and especially as they're so, you know, few and far between, as you're going through surgeries and recovering in an ICU, that is significant. That is, you know, to wake up and just always see him there.
Yeah.
That right there is your rock.
He was.
Mm-hmm.
He never left. Now, I was in ICU for 5 days, and then I was in my regular room for another 8 days.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Invisible Tears. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast to hear part 2 of Jane's attack and all future episodes. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We also have a website, invisible-tears.com, where you can keep current with any events that may be happening with our podcast, read more about Jane and the team, and read more about all the Connecticut River Valley unsolved cases.
If you are looking for everyday items, clothes, collectibles, or a gift for that special someone, you can support us further by checking out our retail store, The Frugal Marketplace. We can be found at thefrugalmarketplace.com or search for us on eBay and Poshmark. We hold an online claim sale on Facebook Live every Monday night at 7 p.m. where you can find our latest items for sales or items at a deep discount. If you're local to the area, please stop in and say hi. You can find us at 919 West Swanzey Road in Swanzey, New Hampshire. The links for our products can be found in our show notes.
If you want to learn more about my wellness practice, Guided Path Wellness, head to guidedpathwellness.org. There you can read more about me and my certifications, more about the Reiki and coaching services I offer both in person and remote, and read all about my products for sale that I make through the practice. Feel free to utilize the Contact Us section on the website with any questions, or utilize that free 15-minute consultation booking button if you have any questions about what might work for you. Evil may exist in this world, but we will not let it win. See you next episode.